Welcome to R&R Showtime with Robert
and Ryan.
Today, we'll be doing a April movie review. We've seen quite a few movies in April, and we have things to say about them.
Yeah, April, I think, is also notable for having this feels like the first big month in movies since the pandemic happened. Maybe that's just me because I went and actually watched a lot of movies that maybe not a lot of people did see. And really the biggest movie of the month was probably Sonic, which, I mean, we'll talk about it, but there are movies that we're going to talk about that I don't think have been talked about enough.
And there are movies that probably have been talked about. And there are movies that have probably been talked about, and we're just going to reiterate some things that people probably already know about them. So
one in particular, which is where we're going to start off. So we've kind of organized this to go from worst to best. And so there is a clear worst movie that we saw this month. And it's this little, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Morbius. Morbius.
Yeah, Morbius. That movie was trash. I was actually really excited to see it. Well, I'm gonna say really excited. I mean, like, I thought it was gonna be good, and I was looking forward to it.
I thought it was so interesting that that when that movie was like trailers would come on, that you looked like genuinely excited, because I feel like from the first time I heard about that movie that people were like ready to dunk on it, especially because of the Jared Leto of it all. And so this whole time before the movie came out, I was like, this movie's probably not going to be very good. And then reviews came out prior to us watching it of it not being good. And I was like, all right, well, now that I know that, I can just go in and with no expectations of it being a good movie.
Yeah. And then we came out of the theater and I was like, wow, that was absolute hot garbage. And Ryan was like, well, I laughed enough that it was amusing,
That is a mischaracterization. I said explicitly that it was a bad movie, but in my opinion, it was so bad that it was entertaining to me. I was legitimately laughing through a lot of the movie, but not at stuff that was meant to be laughed at. I mean, Matt Smith, I think, was genuinely entertaining as the bad guy in the movie, but as a whole, like it was a bad movie.
Yeah, it was just a dumpster fire. And I think you actually said this to me before we went in there, that the reviews online and what I could sum up my whole sentiment of this is it's like a not very good early 2000s superhero movie.
I think, yeah, either early 2000s or that's the best way of putting it. Like
it's a Daredevil.
Yeah, honestly, but I feel like,
and not the amazing Netflix show, The Terrible Movie with Ben Affleck.
Yeah, but as much as this is a bad movie, and I don't recommend anybody going to the theaters to watch it, I think it will kind of go down as like a so bad it's like watchable kind of movie that you like maybe watch with friends to make fun of kind of thing.
See, I don't know. I don't know about that. Maybe that's a sentiment that people have, but frankly, I'm like, this is so not good. It's totally worth skipping. And it being like a superhero movie that's kind of adjacent to like Spider-Man and has maybe some implications with him.
Which we're not going to spoil things, but make sure you watch the after credit sequences if you are taking the time to watch this movie, where they have some bold thoughts about what this movie was going to do for them.
Yeah, certainly. But the implications that it's kind of adjacent to Spider-Man, who is a big deal, makes it, you'd think like, oh, I should watch this so I just have the full understanding. Frankly, I'm like, nah, just skip it. Like, really, just don't watch it. Don't waste your time at all.
Yeah.
It's actually like a waste of time. It's that bad movie. Go watch literally any other hundreds of movies that are better than this. So,
yeah. I mean, within the same universe as this film, go watch either Venom movie. They are both notably better.
Yeah. I mean, and I would say, like, I didn't think the second Venom movie was great, but it's definitely better than this.
Yeah.
So what would you give it letter grade, Ryan?
Oh, this movie's like at best a D-.
That is pretty much what I thought. I mean, I think there's enough here that makes it not be an F movie, but yeah, it's like a D or D minus.
Yeah, and to be clear, I don't blame the problems with this movie on any of the actors. I think even Jared Leto kind of does like a serviceable job. I just don't think he probably should have been cast to be a superhero. That's kind of wild that they thought that made sense.
Well, he is an anti-hero, right? Like he's kind of like not a good guy. I mean, and objectively,
yeah, but he's the protagonist of this story. Like you need to get people to root for this guy, and I think Jared Leto has enough of like a stink around him that people aren't gonna gear up to go root for him.
I want to also say is that this movie might have in the early 2000s. This movie would have been maybe like a C plus, a C. Okay,
that is fair.
And that's actually the thing is that the real reason that this is so terrible is that there are so many good superhero movies out. Not just Marvel, like Sony has made good superhero movies, right? So it's not like Marvel's the only one that knows how to make good movies. DC's made a few good ones. I have a lot of bad things to say about quite a few of their movies, but they've made some good movies. So in this day and age, superhero movies are something that people know how to do well and very well. So to make a movie like so poorly is just what were you doing? Like,
I think I'd rather watch Morbius than the first Suicide Squad again.
Yeah, I wouldn't want. There's quite a few DC movies that I would absolutely not want to watch. So
that's me sort of getting at like that's why this movie's not an outright F in the way that some superhero movies have been. But yeah, it's not worth watching.
It's bad, and that's probably all I want to spare for that anymore. So
all right. Next movie on the list, you have not watched this, but I can tell you that it's right that you did not watch it. In fact, I wasn't even planning on watching it, but I did go and see the newest iteration in the universe, the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore, and it's better than the last one, I guess. But that's kind of the strongest compliment I can give it, because it's not better than the first Fantastic Beasts. It's not better than any other Harry Potter movie. And you can really tell that they just wanted that in making this movie they wanted to write it in such a way that this could be the last Fantastic Beasts movie while also leaving it open for more stuff to come. And this movie makes a lot of it's really just hard to talk about this movie without spoiling stuff of the Wizarding World, which I'm sure some people care about while also not wanting to see this movie. Mads Mikkelsen does a good job as Grindelwald. Jude Law as Dumbledore is basically the main character of the movie. The Fantastic Beasts have been really sidelined in this Fantastic Beasts series, especially Newt Scamander. And his love interest in the movie is like barely in it at all. Like the girl that was like the Auror from the first movie and like is this whose sister is Queenie. She is like in like 2 scenes of this movie and on pictures, and it's baffling why she's just not in it. But they introduced new characters, and there's characters that are likable, like Eddie Redmayne as Newt's delightful. Jacob Kowalski, he's fun to watch. And there's things that like as I was watching it that I was like, oh, I remember these are things that I enjoy. And then I would be reminded that I'm watching this movie in this series that really just shouldn't have been made. And it feels like a cash grab.
Yeah. I already was like not even in any particular like caring about Harry Potter, the Wizarding World movies and stuff, because they clearly feel like cash grabs at this point. But I specifically was like, I'm not go see this because of the Johnny Depp thing, and finding out that it was only just slightly better than the last one was definitely yeah, I'm for sure not going to see this now. Can
I just say the timing of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case coming like directly after the release of this film certainly isn't going to help. The Warner Bros. who have Amber Heard coming up in this Aquaman movie later this year, who I've already seen a petition to have her removed from the movie.
With over 2 million signatures?
Yeah. whereas they kicked out Johnny Depp, which is especially baffling to me because they kept him in the second movie when the controversy was already around at the time of them making the second movie, I'm pretty sure. So it's weird. I understand why they chose to replace him, I guess, but I think it was a bad decision on their part because people like Johnny Depp and people don't like J.K. Rowling. And so it's very easy for a person to just say, do I support this movie that directly gives money to J.K. Rowling and it like turned its back on Johnny Depp, or do I just ignore it because it's not that good? And I can tell you, it's not that good. You can just ignore it.
Yeah. You have anything else to say about this? What's your letter grade?
Somewhere in the C range, because like I was like entertained by it, but yeah, C minus, I guess. With the stuff around it, I maybe drop it into the D range, but as a film on its own, it's like C minus. Like it was entertaining. Like it did the magic and stuff. There are good characters in the movie, but like if you have to compare it to the rest of the Harry Potter universe, it's the second worst.
All right. Well, there you go. What's the first worst?
Fantastic Beasts 2. That movie is bad. Like there's no redemption in the second Fantastic Beasts movie.
I remember seeing it, but I don't really remember a lot about it at this point. Which
going into this new movie, I realized that I forgot a lot about it too, because there are two characters that were introduced in the last movie that when I saw them, I was like, who are these people? Did they just introduce them out of nowhere? Do you remember Newt having an assistant named Bunty?
Absolutely not.
Okay, she's a pivotal role in this film.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I guess even if Fantastic Beasts 2, at best, forgettable. So,
yeah, that is a compliment to it. All right. So next up on the list is a film that you have seen and I have not.
Yeah. So I went and saw Father Stew with my dad, right? And this movie is, it's decent. It's good for what it is. Mark Wahlberg does a really good job, playing this character. So there's not a lot to say about it. If you see the trailers of this movie and it looks like something you would be interested in, it's exactly what it looks like. And for what it is, it's a B movie. It's solid. It's good. Mark Wahlberg does a good job. And if you think you'd enjoy that plot, then you'll enjoy this movie.
So the movie didn't really appeal to me in its sort of what the plot of the movie appeared to be. It looked like a religious movie about a guy who gets sick and stuff around that. I feel like just having the conversation about Fantastic Beasts and the Johnny Depp of it all, this movie has Mel Gibson in it, correct?
Yes.
All right. I think that is something that I would like to also put as a disclaimer, because even if I was intrigued by this movie, putting Mel Gibson in it to me kind of puts me off more because of past controversy. And I just feel like there are better older actors that could be given parts rather than redeeming Mel Gibson's career for shit that he did and said. And to be fair, I honestly, I don't feel personally offended by any of the stuff that Mel Gibson did, but like, it seems like we pick and choose who gets to be canceled for what reasons. But I think it's valid for people to not want to support a Mel Gibson movie.
Yeah, for sure. So, would I say definitely go see this in the theaters? Not really. It's not like it's served by being on the theater screen. It's not necessarily like something you need to spend your dollars on. But again, if you see the trailer and it looks like something you would probably enjoy, you will probably enjoy it. Like, it's not a bad movie. And so, like, if you could see it for free at home, do so. And if you really like the plot of it, if it looks like something you definitely would love, then yeah, sure, go spend money on it. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
All right. So we're talking about 7 movies total. So this next one's going to be the middle of the road of the 7 movies, but it's the first one that I can give an endorsement to go see, and that's Sonic the Hedgehog 2. The big, I think I want to say that's the biggest release of this month. Certainly bigger than Morbius.
Yeah. Sonic 2. Can I be honest? And I don't think it's anything to do with the movie, but maybe it is kind of to do with the movie. I fell asleep during this movie. But I really want to say is that I told Ryan before I saw Sonic that, I was like, I don't think I'm going to see this movie. I don't really think it's my jam. I remember seeing the first movie and it was good for what it was, but like it's kind of like a kid's movie with adult things that adult people can enjoy. Or if somebody really likes Sonic, obviously like this is something for them. I don't really like Sonic, and I don't really like kids movies that have some adult stuff going on.
Yeah.
So I already knew it wasn't going to be a thing for me. But when I saw it, I was like, this is okay. This is a good movie. Like honestly, I would probably say, yeah, for someone that thinks they're going to like this movie, they should go see it. It actually is better on a big screen.
Yeah. My take in watching the movie is that I remember watching the first Sonic movie and being like, well, that was pretty good. And then kind of getting annoyed at how much praise it got when just a year before Detective Pikachu came out. And I thought that was solidly the best video game movie I'd ever seen. And I feel like Sonic kind of stole a lot of Detective Pikachu's glory from like the like making a video game movie that works and that it's accessible and that is a success. And so I went in, but going into this movie, I actually think I was a little more positive on it because I feel like all they had to do was take on the criticisms of the previous movie, not really feeling like a Sonic movie, and just kind of reply to that. And the trailers made it seem like they were kind of doing that. They were just making this movie more of a Sonic movie, less of a Sonic hangs out with James Marsden movie. And they do that for the most part. And I just feel like this movie either tapped into some Sonic fandom I didn't know I had, or just made me a fan of Sonic that I was not before, because I left that movie like kind of hyped on Sonic. To be honest with you, I thought it was a delight. I think the voice casting of I cannot remember his name.
Knuckles, Tails, Sonic.
But I'm trying to remember the actual actor's name. He is in many things.
But most famously Parks and Rec.
Well,
John Ralphio.
John Ralphio. Where his sister is the worst. He does drop in a worst in the movie in the John Ralphio voice. And that's just a delight to me. But yeah, he is in other things. He's a delight. He's a kind of perfect casting for Sonic, in my opinion. And
is he a delight?
He is. Idris Elba as Knuckles, though.
Is he a delight?
He is. I actually thought that it was weird casting to make him Knuckles, but for him to like kind of come out like the fucking comedy guy in this movie, like genuinely funny lines, kind of like all throughout from Knuckles. I remember an early one, just like where, oh, you think your little robots can beat me? Oh, they are stairs. And Jim Carrey really treated this movie like his last movie. I feel he kind of goes like bonkers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he does just he really takes the Jim Carrey role up,
Yeah.
Like, and honestly, I like that. Again, I like a lot of things about this movie. It wasn't necessarily the movie for me, but one thing I think is that this is probably better than the last movie.
It is 100% better than the last movie.
It's got a lot more fan service. It's just got a lot more. And
the wedding subplot, you know what? It is. I understand. It's
that was terrible.
They kind of just shoved it in. It didn't need to be there, but I at least appreciated that it paid off in some way, connecting to Sonic with them all. I don't want to spoil what happens, but it sort of connects it back to the Sonic plot. But then you also get like 15 minutes where Sonic just does not appear on screen, and it's the two girls kind of like taking the show.
Yeah, which is just frankly just a waste of my time. I didn't come here to watch that stupid crap. But I guess they had to find some reason to keep John Marsden in it.
James Marsden.
James Marsden. That guy.
You don't remember Cyclops' actor's name?
Yeah. No.
The Shade. But yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, my opinion of the best video game movie now, to be honest. I Detective Pikachu holds a special place in my heart because I love Pokemon so much. But if I remove my love of Pokemon, I Sonic the Hedgehog made me more of a fan of Sonic, whereas the Detective Pikachu movie just sort of continued my already appreciation for Pokemon. I give the movie A-, which I think is probably what I also gave Detective Pikachu.
I give Sonic like a BB plus,
which I think is valid. Yeah, I
like
think
it's solid. Not a waste of your money to go see it,
especially if you have kids.
Yeah, especially if you have kids. I think it's definitely like great for kids from like the age 5 to 20
to 27.
Yeah, sure. I don't know.
Yeah, that's my age.
Yeah.
All right. So next on our list, a big departure in tone and the kind of audience this movie is going for. In fact, the next 3 movies are all decidedly adult movies.
Yeah.
But this next one's probably the most adult. The Northman.
The Northman. Savage, brutal, artistic, and
from the director of The Witch and The Lighthouse, Robert Eggers. Alexander Skarsgård stars as this freaking Viking machine of revenge, and it's just so visceral. It's so like it's such a Robert Eggers movie if you have watched his other movies, but like he's been given a giant budget to do all this stuff with this movie, and I just thought it was really good, but it's a movie that I find very hard to know who to recommend it to.
Yeah, because me and Ryan had spoken before the podcast, and the movie has like a bunch of savage, brutal action scenes, and if that's something that you're into, you will like that part of this movie. But there's all, like I kind of had said, there's an artistic element to this movie that in some ways could really kind of like go over one's head or distract somebody.
Or just bore. Like you could go into this movie thinking you're just getting fun Viking action, which the trailer kind of leads you to believe, but I always knew wasn't going to be the case. And so I could see a person coming out of him being like, oh, that had, like, there's some cool stuff, but it was mostly boring. And so I think to a general audience, it could be hard to recommend it. But for me, the quiet stuff is like important to the whole of the movie. And again, Alexander Skarsgård does a terrific job. Anya Taylor-Joy, like anytime she's on screen, like my eyes just want to look at her. She's so fucking beautiful.
Yeah, which I mean, that's just literally her in anything that she's in. So I mean, that's not.
Yeah,
she's not doing anything special here, but I very much enjoy her being here.
Yeah.
But I mean, specific things to say that are good. The best movie though, it's got just a tight, good story. Like it tells the story of a man bent for revenge and how he gets there.
You say tight. This movie is over 2 hours, so it's not a succinct story.
Sorry, yeah. It's when I say tight, I don't mean like they tell it succinctly. I mean, but like there's not like I don't feel like there's a lot of wasted scenes here. Like everything you're seeing is moving the plot forward or telling you something that you need to know.
Or a lot of it is world building. And that's the thing that I've heard most complimented about this movie is that he really builds this world of like Vikings and stuff.
Yeah.
Like from like the early scenes that we get with Ethan Hawke and like Willem Dafoe and like the sort of spirituality sort of beginning in the film. And that sort of carried on throughout. And yeah, I think that this was a really good movie. There are 2 movies that I thought were better, but this movie is a solid A.
Yeah. I want to say that knowing some things, that not being a historian here, being interested in like Nordic culture, there's a lot of things that it does to be reverent of that. And basically like the movie, as Ryan mentioned, has spiritual aspects to it and very much depictions of a magic, you could say. but it's so the magic that they do in this is so done in a way that doesn't make you feel like it's something beyond it does things. This is almost hard for me to describe. It does its magic in a way that you can find believable, that you could almost think that, is this people just interpreting these things as magic, and really it's just like matter of coincidences or belief, or is it like truly magical things happening?
Well,
there's some room to like not assume it's all entirely actual magic.
I see. I actually take it more as this film is set with it is setting itself in the real world, but also a world at which, when the Vikings were out doing their stuff, they were like their gods were real, and all this stuff is real.
Yeah.
And that is something that I appreciate about it, because you get plenty of, like, I think it's common to have films like showing people's mythologies and treating it as canon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and it just does that well. That's much better way of saying it. And yeah, I really like that about this movie. There's a lot I like about this movie. I think it was a movie that I was going to be very interested in. It does have great action. It has this excellent world building, and it's about like a thing that I feel connected to. So
yes,
I mean, this movie, I give it it's really a border of like a B plus A minus. I think maybe to your point, actually, in some ways this movie could have been perhaps a little shorter, and there are things that they could have gotten to the point a little better on. There's things it's hard for me to put my exact finger on what things could have been better, but I know that this isn't like a perfect movie. And so I want to, in my best sense, give it an A minus in a very personal way. If I had to be more objective about it, I'd say, B plus, maybe even a B.
I would also like to say that if you can watch this movie and appreciate the more quiet, the quiet bits of the movie, and you just like the sort of tone outside of the actiony visceral stuff of it, I would recommend watching his other films. I think The Witch is better than The Lighthouse, but I know plenty of people who really like The Lighthouse, which is really just Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe talking on and off for like over an hour, and like trippy visuals.
Yeah,
and it's set in black and white. So yeah.
Northman. I would recommend going to see it. It's worth giving them your money in the theaters, and there's scenes that are serviced by being on the big screen. But it's not for everybody. So I would say keep that in mind.
Now, this next movie is also probably not for everybody, but I think it's for a lot more people. And it is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, starring Nicolas Cage. Have you heard of him?
I mean, I think I've seen him in a couple things.
Yeah. For me, National Treasure and Sorcerer's Apprentice. Ghost Rider 2.
That's right, Ghost Rider. Yeah. I mean, all three of those, and I don't know, Face Off and Lord of War, and I mean, there's just other movies I can't even think of them all presently.
I mean, I will be honest that I genuinely have not seen that many Nicolas Cage movies. Me listing those movies off just now, probably my entire history of watching Nicolas Cage movies.
Okay, yeah. Well.
Oh, and Kick-Ass and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I'm sure a lot of more bit parts of him. So I can be honest and say that I don't have the strongest knowledge of Nicolas Cage's career, but with that in mind, I loved this movie. This movie was a delight.
Oh, was it?
Yes, it was a delight. It was just fun to watch, and his chemistry with Pedro Pascal, who I also think is great.
What is he? What he's what?
He is a delight,
Is he a delight? Oh, yeah. Right, because that's what you told me before the podcast. So
he is.
It's really like these movies are actually delightful, full of delight. It would seem.
Yeah.
Go on though.
All right. Yeah. So Pedro Pascal and Nicolas Cage, their chemistry in this movie is just really good. This movie is a ton of fun. funny as hell. Like I feel I can't remember the last movie that I saw that was this funny. Maybe Morbius.
Yeah.
That was a joke.
Yeah. I will say, surprisingly, I was laughing out loud in this movie. But this movie, it's not going out of its way to like be funny. It's just the way that they are, like the things that they wrote and the things that they're doing just are funny.
Yeah. And Nicolas Cage is playing this like sort of like this idea of himself. He's not playing the actual Nicolas Cage, of course. He's playing this concept of him that people have, and it's really genuinely entertaining to watch him just be this guy, while he also has a like version of himself that only he sees, that he talks to, that's an even crazier version of Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. It's just something, man. It's something. It's hard to really even like it's hard to really like tell a person like, what's this movie about? Well, it's just about like, it's about Nick Cage, really. And there's obviously a plot I could mention in it. Like you see in the trailers, like there's a thing with like a drug lord or, a crime lord
trying to take down the crime lord.
Yeah. Working with the CIA and stuff. I'm like,
Tiffany Haddish in the CIA.
Yeah. But
who has of course seen him in The Croods too.
Yeah. It's funny enough that that's not really what the movie's about though.
Yeah, the movie's like, it's really about Nicolas Cage and Pedro Pascal just sort of talking, and it gets very meta. Like they're discussing
terribly meta.
Yeah, they're discussing the movie that they are in as they are
writing the movie that they're in.
Yeah, and but as a result, like they write a good movie, I'd say. And there's a scene in the trailer, like with them on a wall, which like I have seen in the trailer already. So I went in expecting it, but seeing it in the context of the movie was so funny.
Yeah, dude. It really had everybody cracking up. It was everybody in the theater. It wasn't just me. It's truly a funny movie.
Yeah.
And it's just, now the thing, when me and Ryan were kind of like putting these movies in order, because if you hadn't noticed at this point, we're doing like kind of the worst ones first up to the best ones. And we said, like, which one of these goes first, right? I think that more people could watch this movie and enjoy it. Because
which one of these goes second? Because we haven't gotten to number one.
Right, yeah.
But we were debating between this and The Northman. Yeah. Which I personally think are kind of equivalent quality, but very different movies.
Yeah, totally different movies. And I think that The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent can appeal to more people than The Northman might.
I think you don't even need to be a Nicolas Cage like aficionado to appreciate this movie, because I haven't seen that many Nicolas Cage movies, but you sort of like understand him like pretty quickly, because he just like he kind of exists in the mannerisms of Nicolas Cage throughout the whole movie. Like this could just be a movie about a guy named Nicolas Cage that's never been a real actor in the world, and it would make sense.
Yes, and I think that's actually the best thing about it. But I think if you have more understanding of Nicolas Cage, then it makes it better.
Yes, I would agree with that. I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I'd give the movie, an A- as well.
I'd give it an A.
Yeah. So that's, again, there's not much more to say about the movie, because it's something you got to watch.
Yeah, I think people should watch it. And there's another movie that gets shouted out in the movie that I also think people should watch.
And we'll let you find that out if you watch the movie. We don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, it in case you're wondering, it is Pedro Pascal's character's third favorite movie. And Nicolas Cage agrees in the movie that it's quite good. Yeah.
Moving on.
All right. So the best movie that I have seen this month, and can I just say, the best movie that I've seen in years, probably.
Truly, without sitting down and doing a top 10 list, a top 5 list, this is one of the best movies I have ever seen in my entire life.
I agree.
Everything, everywhere,
all at
once. I don't know why we did that, but this movie is an A+ movie. It is
A+, absolutely.
It is flawless. It is Okay, sorry. You know, we talked about this terminology before, right? It's hard for me to ever say there's a perfect movie, right? What is perfect? Because that's a very strong word. But we
See,
have said before, like there are movies that are without flaws. Now, is that an accurate thing to say?
I actually feel like I would rather call this movie perfect than flawless, because I think there are plenty of people who could watch this movie and find aspects of it like, oh, that's just so silly, or
Yeah.
like, oh, that's I don't want to watch that, because there are like moments in it that are kind of visceral and like hard to watch things,
Mhm.
like a paper cutting scene, for example.
Yep.
I turned away from the screen at that. So I don't think that this movie is flawless, but I think it is perfect in the sense that it achieves exactly what it was going for, and it's like such a wholly unique movie experience that I am
You,
so happy
yeah, you
exists.
couldn't change a thing about it, really, and because I will say that people can find things wrong with this movie, but I think it's exactly what it needs to be. I wouldn't. I don't know what I would necessarily change.
And what's more about it is that I feel like if I were to rewatch the movie, I could spend the entire time just like looking at the film craft of it all, like just trying to figure out how they made all this stuff work on a fairly low budget. This is like an A24 film, I'm pretty sure, and yet like it pulls off like special effects that you would see like in a major blockbuster. Like this is probably the lowest budget film of any of the movies we've seen today. I can't actually check that because I did not check that before, but I would believe it's true. But it's the best looking movie. It looks better than Morbius by far. Like the effects in it are significantly better than Morbius. The acting in it is like
It's stellar. It's stellar acting, and one of the most notable things I think about it is that this movie can perfectly punctuate emotional scenes that have real gravity and have been and made you feel some kind of way, right? I'm not gonna say it's not like sad or this or that, but some kinds of way. It takes you on such a roller coaster, this entire movie, of emotion in all these different ways, but throughout the whole movie, punctuate it perfectly with humor. There are plenty of movie moments where you will laugh, and these things seem so bizarre and out of place, but they're not out of place. They are exactly within place. And the context of the movie is it's all totally good and fine. And to do that so well it's like astounding. I
yeah,
it's
and this again, this is a movie that's like over 2 hours long, and yet the entire time I was like, oh, I don't want this to end. Oh, I bet it's coming to an end soon. And then it didn't end. And I was like, yes, there's more of it.
yeah, I just you know
Special shout outs to the star, Michelle Yeoh.
yeah.
Which I mean, this feels like the sort of like American big movie like centered around her that she's deserved for years, and if not decades, and so happy to see her there. Also shout out to I'm sorry about the pronunciation on this. I want to say it's Aki Hugh Kwan, who many people would recognize from Temple of Doom and The Goonies as Short Round and Data. He's grown up now, and he left the acting business because he felt like he couldn't get good roles. And after Crazy Rich Asians, he thought that, you know what, it's my time to get back in. And boy, are we glad that he did, because again, he has this heart to his acting that's just so perfect, and it just adds to this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, and then who's the supporting actress? The
daughter?
Yeah, the daughter.
Stephanie Sue,
yeah.
HSU.
Yeah, she's fantastic as well. They're just the cast of characters are that have like significant roles are just fantastic. Jamie Lee Curtis is
in this,
yeah,
and her role like is like both small but like also like weirdly like it keeps
integral.
Coming. Yeah.
It's actually like very important to the movie. And it's just, I mean, it's insane. Also, really glad to see a movie with a pretty much a majoritively Asian cast do so well and be so good, because I mean, like, and not be about kung fu. There is some kung fu, but this movie's not about kung fu.
but it's also one of the, you could argue that it's not about kung fu, which it's not, but it's also one of the best kung fu movies, American kung fu movies, probably at least of the new millennium.
That's probable. I mean, is Shang-Chi a kung fu movie?
I think
An
this is better
American kung
than
fu movie?
I think this is better than Shang-Chi.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's that. It's just, man, what else? There's not enough good to say about this.
I just love this movie. I want more people to watch it. And really, this whole podcast, in a way, was just an excuse to get to the point where I can just say, this is the best movie of the month. This is a movie everyone should go see. Please watch this movie.
It's on my top 10 list of movies of all time.
I agree.
Seriously.
Same.
Which means it's kicking out some movies I definitely like, some really significant movies that I like. But one of them's got to go, and then this one's got to fit up there wherever it's going to be. And yeah, I am very hesitant to ever give out this rating, but A+. It's an A+ movie.
It is. It really is.
And I'm not hesitated to say that to anybody that's talked to me about this movie. As soon as I got out, I texted a group chat of my friends and said, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. You should all see it. I had to let people know.
And here's my question. How many of them have gone and seen it thus far?
I know that at least one of them is going to see it very soon.
But we saw this movie like weeks ago.
Yeah, and that's one thing. I can't speak highly enough of it because I don't think people get how good it is, and I know it's probably not getting nearly enough attention.
Yeah, because I went to look at the budget, and I also looked at the box office, and it's made over budget, but it's not done enough to be profitable yet, which makes me sad. But it just makes me want to reinvigorate saying, please go watch this movie. And it's hard for me because I really don't like hyping up movies too much so that people go in with heightened expectations. And so I feel bad about kind of putting this movie on the pedestal that it deserves, but I don't want people to go in thinking of it more than it is. But I also want to say that if you did put it on a pedestal, it would still live up to it.
Yeah. Symbols that I have not hesitated from giving it the accolades it deserves. And I hope this wins awards like this. I mean, I don't know what's really going to come out this year. I can't anticipate all the legitimately good movies that can come out, but this should be nominated for an Oscar Best Picture, and they should get nominations for, Best Actress,
Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress, to be honest.
Yeah. The best, I think Best Supporting Actress, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great movie. A+, go see it.
100% best editing, best visual effects, all the things.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Doctor Strange is probably going to take best visual effects, let's be honest, but
yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, that will remain to be seen.
Maybe Thor, actually. Yeah. But I honestly, this movie is better than every MCU movie. And they're doing their own multiverse thing. Well, this movie did it better. Somewhat. I mean, again, Marvel's its own thing, so it's hard to be like this is better than them. But this is a better movie. Yeah, than any individual. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, great movie. Go see it, and I think that's it.
Yep, that's a wrap up for our April movie review podcast. We'll see if May gives us enough movies to want to come back and do this next month. I kind of like this format to sort of hit out movies that we didn't take the time to do full reviews for. And I think next month is going to have plenty of movies that we don't take the time for. Of course, there is like Doctor Strange, and it's the beginning of summer movie season, so I'm sure there's other big movies, but not necessarily ones that we'll cover, but probably deserve some talking about.
Yeah, we'll keep tuned for Doctor Strange podcast. We're going to talk about Moon Knight, and we'll be doing something for the May the 4th as well. So
yep, for you Star Wars fans out there, we have a little plan in store.
A little plan.
Yes.
Execute Order 66. Yeah.
Do it.
But yeah, that is all, folks. So until next time, this has been Robert.
And Ryan.
Have a good one.